Ashley's joining us tonight. And
Welcome, Ashley.
joining us
Hello.
tonight. Yeah, okay, I am up. There we go.
It appears to be live on YouTube. Does that mean it's being recorded?
It does.
Okay.
No, it doesn't actually. Um, it does sort of. It's live on YouTube, so it's being recorded to YouTube. But so that is true. It is being recorded to YouTube. But yeah, we should wait for Brent, I guess.
Yep. Need to give him a minute.
Yep, or two.
Is it streaming YouTube from your computer or from Patty's computer?
It's streaming from mine. How come?
Just for stuff I want to change, to put in titles and stuff like that.
Oh,
I,
okay.
yeah.
Super.
Um, yeah. If you're able to right now put in the title of what this meeting is.
Okay.
Jane really does that. She has that on the background of her.
Yeah, it's there.
Hmm.
So where did you want me to
Just to have it as a title, because even a title will affect
where?
the video.
Okay, I am not familiar, but I'm
Okay, then just leave it. We'll do it later.
okay.
Yeah.
So waiting.
Do we want to wait there, or do we want to just kick it off?
Well,
Later to get going.
we've
Yeah.
well, there's Brent. We don't have to wait. I just looked back up and his name popped up right as I looked. So there you go.
Brent, welcome. We can get started now.
Hey, Brent, welcome. And Shannon. All right. Well, get going for tonight. Just a couple announcements, everybody, before we get going with tonight's topic and conversation. Just wanted to remind everyone, if you haven't been here before and if you're watching for the first time on YouTube, Blair has an opportunity for you to get the insider notes. We go through a lot of material here on the Blair Dunkley experience, but we're not able to get to all of the things that we have prepped. So if you can get the insider notes, you actually have an opportunity to revisit the mind models, the conversation at any time at your own, leisure. You're also able to go a little deeper into the topic, some of the things that we don't get to cover here live. And so it's a great opportunity to really just go deep into the mind model at your, own leisure when you have your moments. So you can get all the historical from episode 318 up to tonight's episode, which is 358, and ongoing. You can get all of those insider notes for $25 a month or $300 a year. And you can get those by going to www.blairdunkley.com/. BDE-insider-notes. And so if you're out there on YouTube, you can get those notes. It's like I say, a great opportunity to dive deep into the mind models. Also, just to mention, Blair has his Mind Model Mastery Secrets podcast. You can go to mindmodelmastery.podbean.com. He's got 4 podcasts up there already, and there are more to come. They're going to be dropping a couple episodes a week, and those should be coming here shortly. So highly recommend going to the mindmodelmastery.podbean.com and check out some of the podcasts that have been there. Also, right now, Blair is offering a complimentary profiling session. This is normally something Blair charges a pretty penny for. So it's a great opportunity right now to come in and have an experience with Blair personally. And he will do a profiling session and kind of tell you a little bit about yourself and may highlight some gaps and some things that you didn't know. You can actually go to www.linkedin.com/in/Blair Dunkley 1, and you can get on right now with Blair at that complimentary profiling session. Again, this is a rare gift that he's doing right now. So that
Just
is,
message me on LinkedIn and say profile.
yep. And Blair will get back to you in that way. Um, and then, we are a community here. If you've been here before, if you're watching on YouTube, again, for the first time, you may notice that, we're all friends here. We go deep into these mind models. We may get a little vulnerable. It's such a great community. And so we welcome you here tonight, and we're glad that you're with us. Again, as I mentioned before, this is the 358th episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience. The Blair Dunkley Experience is a place where we discuss mind models. Mind models are a collection of extensively tested thought frameworks, skills, and behaviors that enable people to transform their lives intentionally. Your host for this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of the mind models. We are Tim and Becky Graff, your co-hosts and certified mind model coaches, along with the amazing Patty McClurg. The Blair Dunkley Experience is Blair's free gift to you, and it's an opportunity to learn, experience, and practice mind models in a safe, real-world environment. Like I say, we're part of a community here, and it's a lot of fun, and we do this every Tuesday night. So mind models have helped Becky and I in every area of our life, not only in our business, but personally resolving an 8-year issue in our marriage within just a few hours of learning these mind models. And we also navigated grief and PTSD from a tragic accident in 2020 where we lost both of our daughters. My models have allowed Becky and I to become more effective and increase our capacities and our speed of recovery without traditional counseling. So these my models are powerful. Again, we welcome you here tonight. We look forward to learning with you and tonight's discussion. And welcome, everyone. And I will hand it off to Patty.
Okay, thanks. So, no leftovers tonight. We did the recap last week, and we're starting a new series today. We're starting a series that will take 3 different topics. We're going to do what we affectionately call a NANPU, which stands for Awareness Notice, Process, Understanding. From there, we're going into a mind model that's new to us, which is clarity versus confusion. And then the next time we go into the pivot post, which hasn't been revisited for several years. So we'll update, go deeper on those things. Tonight, we're dealing with awareness, notice, and then awareness, notice. So this is the first part of the discussion of the ANANPU. And we call it ANANPU because we abbreviate it with ANANPU. So it's just kind of shorthand lingo for what we do here with this particular mind model. So Brent, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
What does it mean to be aware?
Great question. Uh, Meaning of aware. I'm trying to I don't know, to make it simple. I'm trying to say what it seems that going through that awareness process, like what I'm aware. I'm aware that I'm you know, standing here at the screen and kind of how my body feels. Like got a little bit of pain. I'm aware of
That,
it.
or are you aware of
Yeah.
that, or are you noticing it?
Um, Well, right now I'm noticing it because
Okay.
I'm specifically looking for that pain. But if it's not. If, like right now, if I'm not paying attention to it, it's there. So I have an awareness that it's there. Like it's not if I'm not focusing on that piece, but I'm aware that something's there. Um, I'm not specifically seeing something, but it's just something. It's there. I'm aware that it's there. It may not mean anything, but I'm just aware that something is there.
Okay, thank you.
As simple as it
Shannon,
gets, like just not as specific, but pinpoint,
yeah.
just, yeah.
Well, Shannon put in the chat that to be
It's-
aware for her is a blip on the radar. And Jane, aware can be on the peripheral, so it can be something on the edges. The origin of the word aware means watchful.
Mm.
So it's to be guarded or cautious, alert. So if we are watchful, what does it take to move awareness then into noticing? Noticing being more observation with the eye or the other senses. So Brent, when you started talking about you being aware and you're reflecting on your body position and how it feels to be where you are standing and that kind of thing, that external information coming to you through your senses is more of a noticing. So what moved you, do you think, from awareness to noticing? What was the ingredient? It's the secret sauce of mind models that moved you from awareness to noticing.
Well, I was curious of what it was
Exactly.
I was aware of. Like,
Exactly.
and if it's pain, it's the pain. Like, oh, there's pain. I'm curious where that pain is, what's going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You got it in one. Well done. So curiosity is needed to move on to noticing. There are people who are aware of things and never move into any other thing outside of awareness. They don't move into um, what would being aware of something mean? How would that impact their life? And so, with curiosity, then, is the only emotion that will bridge that limbic emotional area of the brain to the prefrontal area with reasoning. So, we have to have the awareness, not just the perception of the reaction, but we need to have deliberate noticing or we're not gathering any data. When you were standing there talking to us, there was a lot of data you were gathering about how it felt to stand. Where were you standing? What was going on for you? All of that you was really effective noticing. Um,
So
so
with that, Patty, then the
yeah,
awareness piece would be I'm just aware I'm standing.
yeah,
Like running through the data of everything that goes through, then I'm noticing how is it that I'm, standing and what's going on with my body, the muscles, that piece. But I'm
exactly.
aware that I'm standing. Like that's just basic. Like
Yeah,
I'm up, I'm standing, I'm aware that I'm standing.
yes. Well done.
Oh.
So Jane, what are you aware of
Right now?
right now?
Oh, okay. I'm aware that I'm here. I'm not, now I'm trying to notice what it is. What am I supposed to be aware of? I basically am aware that I'm here. Okay, hi.
There is no right or wrong answer here. It's
I was
just,
thinking about a situation earlier today where um I had made a comment to one of my daughters, but I went like this when I said it, and she goes, "That was total judgment right there." And I went, "What? I wasn't aware of that." And she goes, "No, the fact that you went like this means you were in judgment instead of just saying what you were trying to say." I was being judgmental rather than just making a statement that everybody knows my opinion about, about the current school systems, the push and pull between teachers wanting to teach the kids, not just regurgitate this information, but to think and how to think beyond what I'm teaching you versus, those who the powers that be, and I'm not going to say who, want people to learn how to just obey what we're saying. Just learn how
so what are you personally aware of right now?
that. Yeah, she was totally right. I was totally in judgment because I went like, did I say that out loud?
Stop just a moment. I'm going to interrupt you. Right now, what are
Right
you?
now, what am I aware of?
Yes.
My office is a pleasant temperature. I'm not having to wear anything special, like a coat or a sweatshirt or anything. There are no cats in here that are bugging me, wanting treats, and and that, uh, you know, My desk is kind of a mess right now because I haven't spent much time in here. And, those are just things that kind of are on my peripheral, but I don't think about it until I notice it.
Okay. So noticing then is becoming consciously aware of something.
That's what I was you're drawing attention to something that you might be aware of.
Drawing attention. Okay, that's what you meant when you put that in the chat. So, but we're consciously aware of something. That awareness is without judgment. That awareness is treating information just for information's sake. So you're gathering data with a first awareness notice, you're gathering data, and it's for the purpose of processing or behaving to it. So Blair, I wondered if you could give us a little more depth on this first pairing of awareness notice. And there are two things I would really like you to help us with. One is the nonlinear aspect of awareness notice, process, understanding. The other is that both Brent and Jane became aware of their circumstances, but how does awareness notice work when we're becoming aware of our internal state? So could you share about those things?
Yeah, well, how many days would you like me to talk on that? No, the last comment
You don't get days.
is
I'll give you some
okay, great.
sometime.
The last one, that's a big question, but I'll back this up and go into the first pairing. The hardest thing that we do in terms of learning, in terms of moving ourselves along as human beings, is sometimes referred as going from 0 to 1. And 0 being, I don't know what I don't know. I can't notice it. I'm not aware of it. It doesn't enter into my consciousness in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not even in any way, shape, or form thinking about this other than living in it. And that doesn't require thinking. We breathe air and we breathe that since we became a life form as a humanity. And we didn't actually understand that what we're doing by breathing, other than knowing that if we stop breathing, we die. So there's got to be something in breath that keeps us alive. And the second that we went, there's got to be something there that keeps us alive. We just moved from 0, not knowing that we need it, like other than the fact that we're doing it. And a lot of people don't think about it. It's just something that you do. Everybody does it. So it's just a matter of fact. But we didn't think of air as being as complex as it is, made up of as many chemicals as it is. But
So
once
Blair, may I interrupt you for just a moment?
yeah,
So speaking of the breathing thing, so we don't really notice that behavior because it's part of everything going on around us. How does it impact us when something happens to our ability to breathe, whether it's an illness or an injury or surgery? That changes that level of awareness.
absolutely. And that's what I'm referring to as going from awareness of just being aware to literally noticing the change, noticing the impact. Because
Okay.
something in ourselves or our environment has impacted us to draw attention to what we took for granted. So it is something to pay attention to. But moving from that 0, and we do this in every area of life and learning. I mean, we have to draw attention to something. I keep going back to my daughter. She's now at 30, but 30 years ago, she was a baby and crawling around. And when she was crawling, well, her cousins came over and they were running around the house, yelling, screaming, having a good time, and going around in circles around the kitchen, the dining room, the living room, down the hallway, back into the kitchen, dining room, living, and running around, chasing each other, having a great time, laughing and screaming. And my daughter was crawling, trying to join in. So she went after them in one direction. And as she pulled out of the kitchen, she could hear them coming around the other side, coming back into the kitchen from the other direction. She'd pivot around and go towards them to try and catch them. And then they'd run by her and go around. She did that 4 or 5 times, trying to catch up to the kids crawling. And then she just plopped back on her butt and she just watched them run by. She didn't cry, she didn't do anything. She observed. She saw what they were doing. And you could see her thinking. So all of a sudden, she, by crawling, could not keep up. But these kids were on 2 feet. And within 48 hours, within 2 days, she was walking post the kids coming over. You could see her thinking and testing and trying, but second day, she actually started walking.
So Blair, would that be her moving from the first level of awareness notice to the second level
It
of awareness?
actually is, but sort of, because she was nonverbal at the time.
Right.
She went from being aware that they're doing something that she can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And then noticing, because she went into study mode to watch them putting their foot down, running by, being able to do all of these things. But
Lots of data collection for her.
lots of data collection. And recognizing, exactly noticing what she was able to do. So from awareness is I can't keep up if I crawl, to sitting back and going into massive noticing mode. And she could have gone into frustration mode, but she didn't. She went after, I want to study this. I want to see what they are doing so I can do it too. And that's huge. Then she went from awareness notice, from I don't know what they're doing, to I see what they're doing, to the next 2 days of pulling herself up and standing on her legs and wall walking and chair walk, like furniture walking, and then trying to move herself and thinking like it was like, you can almost swear she's sweating. She's thinking so hard, her brain is sweating, like she's wanting to do this so bad and get it so that she could move like the kids were moving. And anyway, second day, she cracked the code, but that was her moving from that second level, because it's awareness notice.
Mm-hmm.
And the first level is 0 to 1. Okay, when you're going from, I don't know, like it didn't enter her mind. She'd seen other kids run before and play like that. But it's like, okay, so what? Sort of thing. It's not I can't, it's like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This time it's hold it. I want it, like that is now all of a sudden important to me.
Mm-hmm.
That moving it from that's whatever to I got to do this. That was the 0 to 1 move. And that's huge. Like that's massive.
So again, this example that you're giving is more linear. But we've talked about in our preparation that awareness notice is nonlinear, or it can be nonlinear.
It can be. It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't
Now,
have to be nonlinear,
doesn't
but it
have to
can
be.
be. So is it fair to say that if it's real world external stuff that we're aware of, is that more linear than looking at being aware of our own feelings or emotions and
Okay, I'm going to back this into some other example because my daughter is the first stages of walking,
right?
which tends to be fairly linear when you're beginning a brand new way and
Mhm.
you don't have a lot of experience in life. But that's great for a child.
Right.
But most people use this when they're adults. And so it becomes, they recognize what this is that's happening to them. They learn that they don't know, that they didn't know. And I go, they are now consciously having a gap experience, and they actively notice their gap. As they're in that gap of the first noticing, because they don't know what to notice, they become simultaneously aware of what they're not noticing so that they can start noticing their gap with greater clarity and actually refine themselves simultaneously. So it's like stacking of things so they can happen. Like if this is time in this pile here, they can do everything or different stacks of similar information, but do it at the same time because we have aha moments. When we have an aha moment, all of a sudden we have this, we've moved from 0 to 1, but what we have is application almost instantaneously. I get it. Like people say, I get it. But that's when their awareness and noticing come together, pardon me, almost instantaneously so that they can build a process to move forward. And they get a flash of, what if I do this? And they've gone through awareness, notice. That might take a little bit, but once they get through that first awareness notice, they're wham into the second one and building a process very quickly of, I can make this happen this way.
Okay.
And that's where it becomes sort of nonlinear at that point in time. But most people, if they focus on that 0 to 1 and they go, oh, I'm aware and I've noticed this, they run out and they try and do a process without evaluating that second thing of what is the secret ingredient. You notice how people frequently think that somebody else is a secret ingredient in life. Like if I just do it like they do it, I'll be effective too.
That's
Well,
like Kung Fu Panda. Has anybody seen Kung Fu Panda?
yeah,
The very first one. The secret ingredient is that there is no secret ingredient.
exactly. Except that it's not like there sort of is. What it is breaking down a process flow of awareness, notice, and then being aware that you noticed what you were aware of first. When you get to that level of awareness, that second level of awareness, how you execute what you notice, and you haven't gotten to an execution, you're just noticing it with much greater depth and detail. And again, in Kung Fu Panda, where he goes from unconsciously incompetent, he doesn't know what he doesn't know, to conscious incompetence, where he knows that he doesn't know, to practicing and carrying all of his food bowls and everything around, and then finally having that level of awareness that he can do that, to then noticing his skill set. And when he notices his skill set, that practice phase is starting to turn into a process that's being refined. And
Mhm.
he's beginning to gain mastery over his process that is sort of fallen out of everything that he does, but that process gives him everything that he needs and gives him an understanding of how to do what he does. And when he gets to that level of understanding, and when anybody gets to that level of mastery, literally, you can virtually consciously forget to do because you just are so unconsciously competent, which is where I was going to get to with my daughter and her walking within, less than a month. She was unconsciously competent walking. She wasn't concentrating like she was in the first week or two. She picked that up very rapidly and was now starting practicing to go more from walking into running and keeping up and doing other things. Yes, falling occasionally, but every time she had a growth spurt, she had to recalibrate how to do everything, which we all do. But most people don't think about that. They go, oh, you're just at an awkward stage. Well, yeah, but you just grew and your legs grew. And so everything that you were doing at a certain distance that your brain was judging, it ain't the same distance anymore. So you trip and fall. And then
Right.
you learn, oh, right, I grew. You don't actually say I grew. You just realize you have to adjust and you do. And that's unconscious competence. And that is understanding at that basic fundamental level of a process that you've mastered that you can now adapt to. And
Which is part of what makes this process, becoming aware of this process and noticing it so that we can actually practice it at will, is so incredibly powerful.
well, that's where, honestly, this skill, when I've taught it to some of my clients and they dive into business with this and they start looking at their own issues in business, become incredibly successful because they were not breaking down what it is that they were aware that they noticed this stuff, but they didn't figure out the awareness of noticing it being so critical. When you are aware of what you just noticed and you notice your awareness, okay, now you can make something that is identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable, and you can make money with that because you can build a process that sticks to identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. And when that occurs, you can evaluate and you start understanding. Very powerful.
Yes, it
Very, very
is.
powerful.
So, Leslie, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
How do you experience the awareness notice, awareness notice? Do you have an experience with that?
Yes. When we go on to job sites, one of the first things we do is we have to fill out what's called a hazard assessment form, where we look around and see where the hazards are, what possible hazards could happen or affect what it is that which you tripping, falling. If you're trying to work in an area where other people are working with hazardous chemicals, you make note of that. But then when you do start working, you're always looking around, always checking that you're not going to hurt yourself or get into a situation where you can hurt yourself. It's just like a lot of times we're standing in one space in one particular position, and we're going around where our equipment is doing its thing. But we're watching to see where other people are, if they're going to interfere with what it is that we're doing, and we'll stop them or ask them to wait for a minute until the process is done. And then, but you're looking, right? Like it's just conscientiously looking at the floor that if you're going to start walking, that you're not going to trip over something.
So that's very intentional. That's very
That
intentional.
whole, yeah, it is. The process at the beginning of filling out that hazard assessment form sort of puts you into that focus,
Mhm.
puts you into that process of always being aware.
Mhm. Yeah. Ashley, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
So have you ever experienced more of a subconscious knowing, something that's not, or awareness notice, something that isn't as intentional as the example that Leslie gave, whether it's
Um,
about feelings
yeah.
or
Yeah, I think with like my kids especially, being aware of what's going on in their surroundings, you're kind of thinking about what they're going through and what they're experiencing, and then you're continuing to watch them, continuing to notice and kind of test to see if you're accurate or not, because it's all very internal because their awareness is a lot different than ours as adults.
Mhm. Have you ever been surprised at something something that they are aware of and noticed that's in a really different frame than what you have?
Um, Nothing specifically, but there is one situation where I remember I felt like I had this great teaching moment, and then I overheard my two youngest talking about something that I was just like, this is just not effective communication at all. And I say to them, where did you get this from? Like, what is the purpose of this conversation? And they're like, oh, this is what you were telling us before. And so whatever I had communicated to them that I thought was great parenting, they completely flipped it into something completely different. And I had to completely restart and be like, yeah, that's not at all what the intention of that conversation was. So, yeah.
Well, that's actually another piece of the awareness, notice process understanding model is that you did some teaching because you
Mhm.
noticed something they needed to know. And then you noticed their behavior in response to that, and you checked for alignment. You were asking them questions to see if your teaching aligned with their understanding.
Yeah.
And sounds like it gave you a smile at the time.
Yes. I was very cocky probably. I felt like it was a great teaching moment, and then it really backfired on me. So,
A learning moment for both of you.
yes, yeah. To ask more questions in the teaching moment of
Yeah,
what their understanding is. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Ashley. Tim and Becky, do you have any experience with the awareness notice process going from level 1 to level 2?
Yes. So as Ashley, well, I had like three different thoughts collide in my head when you asked that. So as Ashley was talking, I was thinking about a similar experience with kids where we were out doing something. I think we're actually on a hike, and I'm out at my vantage point. We're, aware of our surroundings. We're on the trail. We're doing our thing, and I'm getting ready to point out something to the girls that I see. And then I look back, and one of my littles is down, like scrunched down on the ground, examining like the leaves and the bugs and all the things. So her awareness and her noticing of her experience was on a different level than mine because of vantage point. So we're in the same situation. We were both aware of our surroundings, but we were noticing very different things within that process. So that was one thing that was coming up for me as we're talking about, what are we aware of? And then what are we noticing within that? Um, stop. What did I notice? My daughter's not right behind me. I need to make sure that she's with me, right? Because she's found something that captured her attention and she's down examining it. We're very noticing like, oh, all the things, which opened a cool opportunity for seeing things from their vantage point and remembering that that needs to be taken into consideration as well. So that was one thing that came up for me. How about you?
What's coming up for you, Tim?
Well, I was going to say, when you asked the question, Patty, the first thing that came up for me is, so driving, for example. I
Mhm.
spent uh, quite a few years of my life on the road as a professional driver. And there were times where you'd be driving and it was almost like just going through the motion. I'm driving, and then all of a sudden I would come to, if you will, and I'm like, okay, I've gone 50 miles and I don't remember the last 50 miles. And obviously I was in autopilot. I know I changed lanes and I was, doing different things, but it was just that habituated, it was that subconscious just going through the motions. And so there was an element of that first awareness notice there, but it hadn't really kicked into that second level of awareness notice. And then there are times, where you are driving and you may go to change lanes, you look over and something catches that attention, that awareness that, okay, this person is not where they're supposed to be. There's, somebody right there. And that second awareness notice kicks in of, okay, I've got to really, intentionally pay attention to what's going on over there before I can change lanes. So that's what came up for me is, there was quite a few times where I would just be going through the motions subconsciously and not really thinking much about it until all of a sudden there was almost like this, that second awareness just kicked in of, oh my gosh, I've gone this far. And I mean, obviously I didn't get in a wreck. I'm, all's well. But it was just that subconscious driving. And then there's other times where that second awareness notice kicks in where, okay, I've really got to pay attention in this particular situation, and watch this other driver, or I come up on a situation on the road or something where I really got to intentionally, pay attention. So that's what came up for me when you asked that question is, there was moments where I was in that first awareness notice and then other moments where that second awareness notice really kicks in and then I've got to move into a process at this point.
Interesting. Brent.
Yeah, I noticed something there with Tim and Becky both. There was awareness notice and awareness notice almost simultaneously on the situation, two different situations and pieces. So like Becky was aware of her surroundings and then where her daughter was, and then she was awareness notice of like the perspective of where how they were seeing the experience of the environment, so the two different pieces there. And then Tim's driving, the driving skills of actual driving, but then the environment around, the something bringing up around the environment, specifically. So awareness notice of the driving, but then of the environment. And those were almost simultaneous at the same, real quick, back to back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that if you notice both of their examples, they go from well, Tim's is probably the most obvious because he named and labeled his situation of sort of, subconsciously driving or just going on autopilot, which is mostly an internal processing of stuff. But then when the environment shifts or changes somehow, he immediately becomes more conscious of it. And so that consciousness moves him externally. So he is focused overall on the external, even though it's subconscious and it's habituated patterns that he can do. He doesn't have to exert full consciousness, full concentration on driving because he's just doing the stuff, quote unquote, on autopilot. Is he paying absolutely full attention? No, but he's skilled. And people cannot do that autopilot thing for the most part without having done it a lot and habituating the behavior. In other words, doing that thing, well, you can do it if you habituate too quickly and you're not safe and you're not driving safely because that's the only way that everything is habituated. You were a professional driver and you kept things safe all the time. Until things weren't safe, then your brain lit up and said, hold it, I have to switch into the putting more energy, more effort into thinking and paying attention here than I did before because something is noticeably different. The same thing applies with Becky's story. She had a perspective that she was into herself. She was going to share that with her daughter, but she turns around and finds her daughter into herself, doing her own awareness notice. Then Becky's attention shifts to a different awareness notice and noticing her daughter's awareness notice at multiple levels. It's sort of cool when you start doing that because you can start recognizing how all of this is needed. We have to do this. We'll either do it consciously or subconsciously. If we start mastering this with intention, we can take charge of the process intentionally of noticing, and we move ourselves through problems much faster if we identify, name and label, what it is that we're aware of and what it is that we're noticing. And what we are aware of may not be the same thing as what we're now noticing. And especially when we're sort of starting to do everything all at once, if we could see the awareness hitting for I don't know what I don't know, I didn't know that this was happening, to, oh, I'm aware that this is happening. So the awareness kicks in from 0 to 1, and then you start noticing, and then you're aware that you're noticing. When you're aware that you're noticing, that's that next level of leveling up your stuff. Because some people go, I don't get it. That's where they're learning something and they don't think about it, like they expect it to just happen. And they go, I don't get it. Well, if you weren't noticing your awareness and aware that you were noticing, how can you move forward? It's pretty tough. Now, fortunately, most of us just do this through learning. We just go through this process. It's no big deal. We just do it. But it's when we don't, when we're stuck, when we are going, I don't know what to do here. That's when the Anandpu process, like especially the beginning of the awareness notice piece and naming and labeling what it is that you are aware of. And you can literally start noticing that. And it starts coming together. All of a sudden, it's like I go back to aha moments.
Thank you. Shannon, may I ask you a question? What's coming up for you with awareness notice?
Is interesting. It's really interesting. I have a couple of questions actually. Because Blair, would you say that the first awareness is actually the moment in between unconscious incompetence and conscious incompetence? Like, is the first awareness that moment in between those two? Or is it actually the unconscious incompetence?
The very first awareness, when you hit that level of awareness, that is the first tag into conscious incompetence. Okay. However, you have to have a level of curiosity happening where you are just aware that you're not aware, which is weird, but that's how come it's non-linear.
Yeah.
You'll just be experiencing stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And you won't even call it that you're aware of it. It's just stuff that happens. And that becomes the key piece of the puzzle.
So because it's possible there are lots of things that we all know and they are running in the background. Like I am peripherally aware of my surroundings. And so there's something that blips that draws that forward.
Correct.
To pique your curiosity, to pay more attention to it. So it feels like the blip moment is the first awareness.
Correct.
And
But
then
see,
the
that's you
curiosity.
transitioning from I don't know what I don't know. Now, and that's fine, but you've got to also look at this as okay, this when I was working on this mind model, it's rather deep dive because you start recognizing that your level of consciousness matters.
Mhm.
So a lot of people call things unconscious or subconscious. There is a difference. The subconscious is below conscious. The unconscious is near death.
Okay.
Okay, so technically, you're not unconscious. They call it unconscious incompetence. It's subconscious incompetence. And it can actually go right down to unconscious, not that you're near death, but your brain won't be able to notice this until and they've done studies on this and research on this and tracked brain progression. Um, you can put people on, I forget if it's a PET scan or fMRI or whatever it is. It's one of those machines where they're tracking, or maybe it's just simply an electrical encephalograph, and they're tracking the brain stuff. I think it's the latter. And what they notice is they ask people to push a button as quickly as they can the second that they're aware of something.
Mhm.
Well, what they found was that they could watch the brain react to things, and they knew between a full half a second and an eighth of a second before the person was consciously aware. And they knew that they would have the awareness because they could watch the brain process that information at that point. But you've got to recognize that the brain is taking in all of this data. And the interesting thing is, as the brain is taking in all of its data, you train your brain to become aware and then to notice. One of the exercises that Formula One race car drivers do is they have a person who has two tennis balls in their hands, and they'll open one hand and drop it. The other person's hand is like sitting, like the F1 driver is sitting here on top of the hand, and they have to pull around and grab the ball before it hits the floor. It's not particularly an easy thing to do for most people, but their reaction time is so fast, and they train themselves to react to that so quickly. And the way that they do that is by not actively thinking about it. Because if they take it eye-hand coordination or just feel and like just feel that subtle little shift, all of a sudden their reaction time is way faster. If you get people that are skilled like that and reaction time matters, you can take reaction time down by a lot. I'm sorry, I forgot the numbers. It was a study I saw years ago, but it's like, from almost a full second to a 16th, a 32nd, whatever, a very, very small amount of time that you can do it. And they notice that the reaction time is so fast that in some individuals, the reaction is reflexive, which means everything just go like for certain kinds of actions, it can become a reflex. And reflexes don't need to go all the way to the brain and back. They just go to the spinal cord and back for a reflex. because there's enough neurons there to do the motor action just at the spinal cord, which I found totally fascinating. Then you become aware of it. So the reaction is done, and then you become aware of it.
I think
And then
about
you notice it.
I think about times when I've been out hiking. I've been out hiking and there'll be a tree branch or a rock or something, and I'll go to trip. And before I can even like think about it, my foot's already moved and I've already caught myself, before that split second before it, kicks in that, oh my gosh, I almost just totally ate it. But that motor skill just kicks in so
Yep.
fast and the action that a lot of times I've caught myself before I even hit the ground.
Yep.
So is it fair to say that if you have a level of pre-exposure to something, that you're almost inserting yourself halfway through and you're jumping in at the second half of the Ananpu because you have a neurological hook, like your
Bingo.
brain already knows what it's been exposed
Yes.
to. You can
Yes.
shorten the process and pick up at the second level of Ananpu.
But that takes practice.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's
But
the
it's,
whole
it's part
point
of
of
what
practice.
shortens and quickens that recovery time in that process or whatever skill you're trying to hone.
Yep. Like a pianist playing a song.
Yeah.
Like when they're doing the whole thing, they don't think about hitting the keys. They think about the tone that they want and the way they want to hit the keys.
Well, it's like the difference, like a beginner is going to be looking for different gaps than someone
Absolutely.
who's advanced, their
Correct.
ear and their experience. And so in a lot of ways, I mean, I know it applies to other things, but if you look at it from like the learning process in a more linear way, you have someone further down the road who will be noticing different things will blip on their radar because of their level of experience
Well,
than
right
someone
there,
who is a beginner.
like Becky describing her experience. I'm sure as a kid, the same age as her daughter, she would have been fascinated by the bug too. And she might still be, who knows? But at the end of the day, she's got this beautiful view that she's looking at from an adult perspective, while her daughter is down examining the bug from her beautiful perspective and going, wow, isn't this cool? So, I mean, it's all what your intention is to focus on and where you are, not only in the stage of life, but in the stage of perception of what's there.
Thank you. Just in summary, there were 3 mind models tonight that were very key to the awareness notice process that Blair mentioned. I just want to highlight them for you. One is the mind model of curiosity, which is the bridge to all things, the ability to ask a question. And awareness without noticing, there's no curiosity there. There's nothing to ask about. So in using curiosity and asking questions, we can intentionally train ourselves to move into a process where we're gathering data and we're becoming more effective in creating a process that gets us a desired result or better understanding. The second one he mentioned was naming and labeling. And naming and labeling what's going on is very key. Part of what naming and labeling does is tied to another mind model called general versus specific. And it takes, naming and labeling takes something that's sort of general, makes it very specific. You know what that is and you can behave to it. One of Blair's stories regarding naming and labeling as a child is going through the woods with his Uncle Joe and hearing a sound, not knowing what that is, but at that point he's aware and he's noticing the sound. And then he's curious, so he asks his Uncle Joe, what is that? His Uncle Joe names and labels it, and it becomes a very specific piece of information in his brain that he can then choose his response to. Instead of being a general unknown, which leads to feeling unsafe, It's a specific thing, which then he can choose to be uncomfortable and learn. So all learning goes through a stage of being uncomfortable. So I wanted to highlight that particular part of the Anandpu process. We have much more that we did not cover tonight, but we're getting close to wrap up here. So I think that, is this a discussion that you all would like to continue next week to go deeper on this one? Going
We're
once?
actually building process.
Yes, we're building a process.
Yeah.
Okay, Leslie, Brent. All right, Tim, Jane. Okay, I think we'll continue this next week, and I'm going to hand off to Tim for wrap up.
Okay. All right. Well, for those of you who may be out there on YouTube and are not familiar with the wrap up, what we do with the wrap up is we actually go through and everybody shares their one big takeaway that they experienced tonight, that they got tonight, that bit of knowledge that really stuck out to them. And then rating the experience that they had tonight from 1 to 10. Obviously 1 being it wasn't that great, to 10 being this experience was awesome. So just rating not how we did here, Patty or Blair or anyone in particular on the Blair Dunkley experience, but how you experienced this mind model and the discussion tonight, rating it from a 1 to 10. So, and if you're on YouTube, we'd love it if you would put it in the comments. So as we're kind of going through this live, if you would, we would appreciate it if you'd share it on YouTube in the comments. And to start us off, Brent, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yes, I enjoyed like this Anandpu digging into this first piece is that notice that transition piece. I just like digging into that because that's the most piece trying to analyze situations and going through that, like to pinpoint which those pieces are. So that's to me that's the toughest part for me to figure out, which part you're at, where you're at, and identifying that. So I really want to get into more, so help build that process. So yeah, I want to skip like there's more information till we get to process. So I want to, next week, great to finish that. But yeah, at the beginning here to pinpoint the difference between, I like the difference, part 1, part 2, that first awareness notice where that's at, and then get into the second. We had some great examples of that tonight. So, but being able to identify that and see that, and then like it was great, Shannon picked up, that was something when if you've already had some experience, so learning, you're at a different stage, but that process is faster. You're able to go through, skip that faster because you have some sort of, already exposure to something that you're in. So yeah, I give it a 8.5 for me today.
Thank you, Brent.
Yep.
Jane, would you like to participate?
Sure. I love this particular one. Until I started learning about awareness notice, was not even aware that I wasn't noticing. So that starting at that 0, I mean, that point of obliviousness. So because of this, I have become a more aware person, and since I've learned that there is a difference between being aware and then noticing. So I always think of Sherlock Holmes, how he notices stuff more readily and is able to figure stuff out, because not is he only aware of something, but he notices it. And so that's a skill that I was aware subconsciously that I would like to have, but I had not yet noticed that you have to notice in order to become skilled. So there we go. I love the story about Blair's daughter and learning. We always called the crawling stage as 4-wheel drive. And when they notice that they are operating on 4 wheels rather than the 2, that's a big thing. And then of course the toddler stage, they call it toddling because they're not really aware. And to hear of a child that accelerated her learning because of her observation and noticing, and then going through that whole process quickly. They always say that the second child learns to learns to walk faster than the first one did. And it's because of this very thing. But to hear, somebody process that quickly, is to me was very I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. And I loved when Ashley brought in, her kids and stuff. I think that there's a certain point as a parent, I put it in the comments, where you're aware of your kids playing, but when you notice that it got quiet, that's when you spring into action to go figure out why is it quiet, because that's usually trouble. So I'm going to give it a 9 tonight. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Leslie, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Certainly. 9.5, again, trying to better understand, being aware and noticing. And I know we'll get into this more next week about process, but currently with trading, you're constantly watching the charts and you're supposed to react positively, and that doesn't always happen. Same as with dropping things. I'm not that fast anymore. I fall like a rock. Things that I drop fall like a rock and hit the ground. It just doesn't happen like you young guys anymore. But I do notice that I dropped it. So there's a whole bunch of things that I like about this Anandpu, and having learned it, it's I am amazed at how often I think about it. Like just this evening, and listening to and working through and listening to tonight, thinking that, yeah, since I first learned this, I'm relying upon this as a process much more, which is positive. Next step is to master it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Leslie.
Just a little hint, what I'm doing with my trading is that I'm learning to identify patterns and naming and labeling those patterns quickly in a testable model. And that's what I have to be able to do.
I'd be curious to know what names you actually call them.
Well, fortunately, that's what I found. The training in the trading, the day trading, I found one that gives it lots of names of different patterns. And that's what I wind up paying attention to, is what are those? What can I identify them? How do I test for what they are? And what differentiates them from a different pattern? And was the setup correct prior to that, so that what I'm thinking I'm seeing is what I'm seeing? That's all.
Cool. Ashley, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yes, I might get interrupted, as you can tell.
No worries.
So I know the number. The number for me tonight is more a reflection of my presence here, which would be a 7, because I miss most of what people have said. And then what was the actual question you had asked?
Just what was your biggest takeaway from tonight?
One of the things that Blair has said near the beginning made me kind of relate it to like the unconscious competence to getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so he talked, I can't remember how you worded it, but it was about that process of not liking getting confused, or not liking not knowing how to do something. And one of the first things I learned in business was to get comfortable with that. And so I really liked kind of how those two things aligned, where we often want to be good at everything, and it really doesn't serve us very well. And it fits in with this very well. So also, just a little plug. I'm going to drop the podcast in the chat because, sorry, I'm really sick. Because this is actually where it's at. So the one that you gave is his old podcast. We haven't started streaming there, but we have started streaming on YouTube. And then it also will be on Spotify and Apple as well. But right now it's only on YouTube. So if you guys want to click that link and go and subscribe, even if you do nothing else, you can go and subscribe, and that helps us get other people's attention as well.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that, Ashley. And it's great to have you here as well. For
Thank
those
you.
of us out on YouTube, I just wanted to mention that link that Ashley just dropped is www.youtube.com/@Mind Model Mastery Secrets. And that's where you can, oh, and we've got it up on the screen. So there you can see it. So yeah, some great stuff and exciting things coming there. And again, that'll be mentioned during the outro as well. So thank you for all your work there, Ashley and Blair.
Yeah. My pleasure. We'll be launching new videos every Monday and every Thursday. So there'll be another one coming out in a couple days.
Very cool. Exciting.
Thank you.
Shannon, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yes, sir. I liked starting out with the reminder that the very first awareness is just for information's sake, it's without judgment. Like that puts a nice umbrella over that particular mind model. Because it's really easy to slide into judging what you're starting to see or notice or feel really quickly. So that was a great way to start it for me. I started the more we got into it, I started thinking about the particular mind model, because I love this one so much. It's one of my favorites. But I started wondering, how do I use it? Like if I was to call it a tool in my toolbox, like what kind of tool is it? And so I came up with a couple things, and I just wondered if anybody had any other ones, but it can be a diagnostic tool to help solve a problem, find a gap. It can be an evaluative tool, which kind of goes along with that. In my own mind, it mirrors the learning process really well. So it can help me with the learning process. I've also noticed that it can help with self-coaching. But I was just curious if calling it a tool, if anybody else had any other ways that they use it or any other names and labels for what kind of a tool that it is. Because it's such a great mind model. It's not, you have to commit a little bit to trying to follow it and understand it and dive in there, but it's worth it. And I just, so if anybody has any now or later to share, I'd be really curious about that.
Becky, were you going to say something?
I'll save it for my wrap up.
Totally. So there's a lot of the Kung Fu Panda analogy, because I just watched that movie. That's one of my movies to help my brain when I'm needing to get back on a process. So that's great, and I loved comparing it to that a lot. So lots of notes. I really appreciated, Becky, your comment about the vantage point, the perspective, playing into that particular mind model as well. So yeah, that's a 9 for me tonight. Thank you. And it's really great to see everyone.
Awesome.
Great to see you.
Yes, it's great to see you, Shannon. Glad things went well for you. Becky.
As I'm taking a sip, of course. 9 for me tonight. A lot of really cool things. And as I was listening to everybody share, I was thinking about how my first conscious exposure to this was listening to Blair on stage in Las Vegas. I was aware that I was in a room with some really cool people and adjacent, and then I started noticing different language that was happening from stage, and then I became really aware and starting to notice like my reaction to it and what I wanted from that point, and started chasing Blair around and wanting to learn more. And, to your point, Shannon, I kind of see a Nanpu fitting into like self-other situations. So the things that I'm aware of, so diagnostic-y, like if I'm finding where I am in time and space, there's a level of awareness and awareness of noticing of what's going on for me. And then it transfers into like others or situations to kind of find my bearings. And then with that data, then I can start creating a process and like moving into that next level, which we're going to get to later, which is the process and understanding. But it really is fundamental. If we don't have awareness and we don't notice things, then we don't have the ability to put names and labels or build the process, because we're just blacked out. There's like nothing. Can't build from nothing. And so being able, and I remember another time where I would do or say something and Blair would be like, time out. What did you just do? And I'm like, I don't know what I just did. I have no clue what I just did. And so he helped me be able to become aware and notice specifically what I was aware of and noticing that caused me to behave or say the different pieces. And that training reminded me of training your brain to be aware, training your brain to be aware of those things, that you can thin slice and create processes for yourself to become more effective in whatever area it is that your focus is. So it's a very powerful mind model. Thank you. That's what I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Becky. Patty.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites too. I really enjoyed Shannon's comment about the blip on the radar being that first awareness, and thinking just that picture, of something showing up on the radar being a first awareness, and that the graphic of that picture really meant something to me. And I like the idea that pre-exposure can help you jump into a level 2. We didn't cover it tonight, but I find that there are times when the speed of life cuts down on noticing. We become aware and we just kind of move from awareness to awareness to awareness, and we don't slow down enough to notice. But that also is something that holds us stuck. So we don't move because we have no process if we have no noticing. And if we just move from awareness to awareness to awareness. And I became, through the medical journey that I've been accompanying Shannon on, became aware of feelings that I would normally have just plowed through and not even bothered to name and label or notice or, any of those things. And working with the mind models and describing feelings and naming and labeling has caused me to become more aware of what I'm feeling in a moment. And then getting curious, where did that come from? What just happened here? How am I going to work with this? And it was a new experience for me, even though we have, been through other medical things together. It was a new experience for me that way. So in terms of tools, Shannon, an ANPU is a clarifying tool for me. And I just wanted to throw that out in case you want to add that to your toolbox. So for me, it was a 9 tonight. Thank you, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. For me tonight, I'm going to go 9.25. There's a couple things that really I really enjoyed what Shannon said about the pre-exposure to something, lets us connect to the second part of that Ananpu a little bit more effectively, a little bit quicker. That I don't know that that's a concept that I really picked up on before, and so that that was an aha for me tonight. When I think about the tools in a toolbox and an ANPU, one of the first things that came up for me is like a flashlight. It's shining a light on, so that you're aware and you notice, and being able to, see what you need to do to move forward into a process. The other one that came up for me was like a compass. It helps you, there's an awareness of where you are, and then you can notice what's going on and where you want to go. So a compass came up for me as well. And a pencil. A pencil actually came up for me as well, because a lot of times, you know, when we're aware of something, we'll jot it down, we'll take notes. When you're doing projects, you know, okay, this bolt goes here or something. It's a way of tracking, you know, where things go or what might be next, or a way of, you know, writing things down and a process moving forward. So those are the three tools that kind of came up in my mind when I was thinking of a NANPU as a tool. So anyway, there some ideas. And then the other thing I really love tonight is going through the difference between the first awareness notice and the second awareness notice. Been through it a few times, but I pick up on a little, you know, different piece of it each time we go through it. And so I really, the distinction between the two, I enjoy talking about. So, and with that, Blair.
Yeah, I was going to jump in earlier when you asked the question there, Shannon, and fill you in. But I would throw in, I like your, Tim, I like your analogy of a flashlight, because what I would say here, it's an end who provides a path to enlightenment. And it both provides a path, a model to get to an enlightened state, but a test for your own enlightenment and the ability to see others who are also enlightened. And then you can find out how conscious or subconscious their enlightenment is. Not saying that one is better than the other, just saying that it's different between conscious enlightenment and subconscious enlightenment. It's just different. So these are, I mean, very deep concepts. But when you can use them as an observational, like just the awareness notice, as an observational platform to both observe yourself or observe others, or in my case and Leslie's case, observe the market, um, and test things, see what's testable, what's externally verifiable. Um, it's quite an interesting scenario because you start becoming aware of things that you're semi-aware of, semi-conscious of, but it helps speed up the awareness of those things that are on the verge of consciousness. And that's huge, I think. It speeds up the learning process frequently. And as Becky was saying, where I would interrupt her, if you don't interrupt somebody and catch them at their notice, to get them to notice their own awareness in either stage one or stage two, that is the thing that I think I've built a reputation around, or one of them, of about being an effective coach, because people get it when you can capture them in their learning moment that they didn't know that they were actually learning it. So they do stuff that's highly effective, but they don't know that it is highly effective because it's their first time doing it. So it's going from 0 to 1. And if you're on your own and doing the 0 to 1 on your own, you could be gapped out for a year or 2 or 3, or the rest of your life, and never get over, move completely from 0 to 1, unless it's habituated. But if as a coach, if you can either self-observe or coach somebody else and capture them, and they're, hold it, what did you do? What did you do? And they go, well, I don't know. That's moving from 0 to 1. And that's the toughest move of all to make. Anyway, it's a 9 for me tonight. It was very good. Very good.
Thank you, Blair. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I will hand it off to my lovely wife, Becky, to take us out tonight.
All right, you guys, thank you again for spending the last 90 minutes with us. Your brains might be smoking a little bit on this one. It's fantastic conversation. Again, there's so much depth that comes with these. So as it was mentioned, if you didn't catch it at the beginning, Blair's put together an opportunity for you to get his study guide. What that allows you to do is to review some of the concepts that we talked about tonight and more, because as we mentioned, we like to keep this experiential. So we talk about the things that come up for people on the show. We follow where the conversation goes, because experiential learning is the stuff that actually sticks. It's different than book learning. This is actually application. How does it apply to your world so that you can actually get that that next level awareness, that second level in NAMPU, as we talked about tonight, so that you can start building a process. So you can get access to his study guide by going to blairdunkley.com/BDE-insider notes. And what that allows you access to is from episode 318 and onward. And that's $25 a month or $300 a year. Again, it's an enhancement to your learning. It's something that you can refer to. Noodle on is one of the words that we like to use here on the BDE. Think about it and see how it applies to yourself, and then bring that. We would love to see you actually on with us, Zoom. So if you're out there on YouTube, you're catching this on replay and you want to join us, please come here. Bring those things that you're learning, your questions that you have, so that we can help you see how mind models can help you become more effective in your own life. We're here every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. And as was mentioned earlier, we've got podcast episodes that are dropping Mondays and Thursdays. You can go to youtube.com/@mindmodelmasterysecrets and be able to access those. Also will be available on Spotify and Apple coming up. And for a limited time, Blair is offering a complimentary profiling session. This is an opportunity for you guys to sit with Blair, have a conversation, and have him help you see opportunities that you might need to look at in your life for more success. Again, this is an incredible opportunity. Blair is not magic, he is not psychic, but he's pretty dang close. And so recommend that you check him out over on LinkedIn. You can go to linkedin.com/in/Blair Dunkley 1, and then just send him a message saying profiling. You'll be able to hop on his calendar, have a conversation with him, and see how he can help you get to where you want to be in life. Again, you guys, we appreciate hanging out with us for the last 90 minutes. Looking forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're out there on YouTube, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you can continue to have access to these episodes where you can learn a skill set that can radically change your life. Appreciate you all, and we'll catch you next week.